Deuteronomy chapter 14. In verse 1, ye are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourself, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all things, above all nations that are upon the earth. Here we have you're the children of the Lord. Moses calls them children, not because they are young, but because they have special privileges with the Lord. You know, you call your children over. They have special privileges, don't they? Other children that aren't your children don't have the special privileges you give to your own children. So Moses is calling them children because they have special privileges before the Lord. And so this particular chapter 14, is laws reflecting the holiness of the people. The laws reflecting the holiness of the people. In chapters 12 and 13, Moses focused on the nation being set apart from pagan nations. Now he turns his focus on the everyday life of the people in a lifestyle that should be honoring to God. So remember, 12 and 13 for the nation as a whole. Now we're going to get into individual needs that honor God. Psalms 135:4, for the Lord hath chosen Jacob unto himself, and the children and Israel for his peculiar treasure. Malachi 3:17, then they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts. And that day when I make of my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Israel, of course, is that special nation that God chose, who can be an example, who are going to reflect God and His character, right? And so all other nations were to come to the Lord through the testimony of Israel. Because of this, Israel had to demonstrate holy living. Israel had to demonstrate holy living. Let's take you, for instance, you're a Christian. If you act like the world, how does that draw the world to Christ? If you act like Christ, that draws the world to Christ. Right? So we need to be practicing holy living. We need to be peculiar people. We need to be different. As Christians, people are always watching us and our testimony. Our lifestyle may be the only gospel someone sees. Make sure everything you do points people to Christ. Make sure everything you do points people to Christ. I was talking to my uncle, who you can pray for him. We've been praying for him for my whole life. He has not accepted Christ as Savior. He brings up this story at my wedding. And we had a dessert reception. And apparently he was in line. And I guess some people in front of him butted in line. And so he heard someone make a comment that said, and these are Christians? And he relays this story back to me just a couple of days ago. You know, the wedding 14 and a half years ago. I never heard of this story before. I never heard of any incidents of somebody in line butting or anything like that. And here he brings up this story of, and they call themselves Christians. You know, I have no idea who they were, who they're referring to. I have no way to, I'm not defending anybody. Well, we're all sinners. And apparently whatever was on the table is what somebody wanted. I don't know, but people are always watching. People are always watching. And you can cause someone to stumble. And so why should I be a Christian if they're going to act like that? Because they're acting no different. I act better than them. I have more moral attributes than them. Be going forward. I was doing some ancestry research and found my great-great-great-grandfather when he immigrated over the United States, and found his application for immigration. And on the bottom of the thing, they had to go to court in New York, and the clerk filled out an application, and a week later, he apparently was standing before the judge, and the judge, he decided him a citizen, but he had to be on the bottom of this it looks like a really nice certificate. The application, it says, and you're of moral and good character. Moral and good character on the bottom, certificate. As citizens of the United States, we need to have that moral character. We need to represent ourselves. The rest of the nation is going to see us, and this is the people. These are Americans. We need to be different. So we are the children of the Lord. Here we have Israel, the special people of the Lord, the children of the Lord. All right, so A, the first thing he's going to talk about is prohibition against pagan mourning rituals. Prohibition against pagan mourning rituals. Here we have, you shall not cut yourself, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all nations upon the earth. Among the pagan culture surrounding Israel, it was common to cut oneself or shave the front of one's head for the dead. It was a part of pagan burial rituals. This particular practice of cutting or shaving some or all of the hair is called tonsure, T-O-N-S-U-R-E, tonsure. It's just a general term for shaving one's head for religious practices or for mourning practices. And so this tonsure is a practice as a sign of religion, devotion, or humility. Tonsure is practiced by Hindus after when somebody dies and they completed the last rites for the immediate family member, that is father, mother, brother, sister, spouse, or child. This ritual is regionally found in India among male mourners who shave their heads as a sign of bereavement. The hair is a symbolic offering to the gods, representing a real sacrifice of beauty, and shaving your head shows your grief for the departed soul. Leviticus 21:5, they shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off their corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. Leviticus 19:28, you shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, or print any marks upon you. I am the Lord. And so we have here, you're not supposed to be doing this as a mourning practice. They're sacrificing, they believe your hair is a thing of beauty, and here they shave it off as a sacrifice to the gods, to the gods in this particular instance. Jewish historians stated it was a custom of the Amorites, when anyone died, to cut their flesh, as it was of the Scythians, as Herodias relates, even those of the royal family. For a king, they cut off a part of the ear, shaved the hair round about, cut the arms about, wounded the forehead and the nose, and transfixed the left arm with arrows. And so the Carthaginians, who might receive it from the Phoenicians, being a colony of theirs, used to tear their hair and mouths in mourning and beat their breasts. And with the Romans, the women used to tear their cheeks in such a manner that it was forbidden by the law of the 12 tables, which some have thought was taken from hence. All this was done to appease the infernal deities and to give them satisfaction for the deceased, and to make them propitious to them. Also here, it was to make for the soul departed, to the honor of it for its good, though the word is often used for a dead body. And so this practice of shaving your head or tattooing, I'm sure you've seen tattoos where you're remembering a loved one and you're putting the dates of their birth and death, you see this sort of practice, and God commands you not to do it. It's not holy living. It's not a practice that's reflective of what you should be doing for Christ. And so here, Moses forbidding, don't do these practices that these pagans are doing. Don't do these practices that pagans are doing. Verse 3, thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. These are the beasts which ye shall eat, the ox, the sheep, the goat, the hart, the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the paragar, and the wild ox, and the camelus, and every beast that parteth the hoof, and cleaveth the cleft into two claws, and cheweth the cud among the beasts that ye shall eat. And so now Moses goes into reminding them about clean and unclean animals. Clean and unclean animals. And you should have a handout. I found this handout. I thought it would be pretty interesting for you to have. That kind of outlines everything that's clean and unclean. And if you want to read in more detail, you can also go to Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 11 also. But here we have a list of clean animals. So the first one that's mentioned is what? Ox. Then we have a sheep. And the third one? Goat. And the fourth one? Hart or deer. The fifth one is a gazelle. I've lost count now. The F is a deer, a wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. So these are all considered clean animals. Clean animals. Verse 7, unclean animals. Nevertheless, these ye shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel, and the hare, and the coney. For they chew the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore they are unclean unto you. And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1, the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying unto them, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, These are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof, and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud, and among the beasts that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the hare, because he cheweth the cud, but divideth not the hoof, he is unclean unto you. And the swine, though he divideth the hoof, and be cloven-footed, yet he cheweth not the cud, he is unclean to you. Or their flesh ye shall not eat, and their carcass ye shall not touch, they are unclean to you. So you have to have two different requirements in order for that to be clean, right? They should be parting the hoof, and they should be they should chew the cud. Part the hoof and cleave the cleft, and two claws and chew the cud. All the others are unclean. Does that make sense to everybody? Cheweth the cud, parteth the hoof, and cleaveth the cleft into the two claws. Cheweth the cud. So in other words, chewing the cud is when like a cow will eat, and then his stomach will kind of regurgitate it back up in the mouth, and he'll chew it again. How many of you did that for Thanksgiving dinner? You're eating so fast, you want to enjoy it again.
Oh, gross.
You're eating fast. Well, that's what they do. That means they're a clean animal. I guess that means we're unclean, huh?
How about if you're unclean, they do that, right?
And every beast that's part of the hoof and cleaveth the cleft and two claws, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. What we read there in Leviticus is some animals chew the cud, but they have their cloven feet. Right? They don't. Like a horse, their hoofs are all one. Alright, so cheweth the cud. Cud is a portion of food that returns from a ruminant's stomach to the mouth to be chewed for the second time. More accurately, it's the bolus of a semi-degraded food regurgitated from the... these are all scientific terms. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Part the hoof or cloven-footed. A cloven-foot hoof is a hoof split into two toes. This is found on members of the mammalian order Arctidactyla. Example of mammals that possess this type of hoof are cattle, deer, goats, and sheep. List of unclean animals. You have here the camel. The camel is disqualified because it does not have a cloven foot, but it does chew the cud. The rabbit is disqualified because it does not have a cloven foot, however, chews the cud.
What happens?
Hare. H-A-R-E. Coney, C-O-N-E-Y, or the rock badger, is disqualified because it does not have a cloven foot. However, chews the cud. The pig is disqualified because it does not chew the cud. The swine. Or number 3 is water animals. Deuteronomy 14:9. These ye shall eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales shall ye eat, and whatsoever hath not fins and scales ye may not eat. It is unclean unto you. Leviticus 11, chapter 9. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever hath fins and scales in the waters, and the seas and the rivers, that them shall ye eat. and all that have not fins and scales in the seas and the rivers, all that move in the waters, and all the living thing which in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall not even be an abomination unto you. You shall not eat of their flesh, but you shall have their carcasses in abomination. Whatsoever hath no fins, no scales in the water, that shall be an abomination unto you. Johnny asked a question last week. He didn't get to this section until today, or 2 weeks ago. He asked, what about catfish? Are catfish clean or unclean? Huh? Unclean? Unclean? No scales, right? And apparently doesn't have any fins. Catfish, yeah. So it's listed as an unclean catfish. So I had to take a moment to think about that when he asked the question. But yeah, catfish are unclean. Considered unclean.
Very delicious, though.
All right, so what's the requirement to determine if a fish is clean or unclean?
Fins and scales.
Fins and scales. Fins and scales. All right, number 4, flying creatures. Flying creatures. Deuteronomy 14:11. Of all clean birds ye shall eat, but these are they of which ye shall not eat: the eagle, the ostrich, the osprey, and the glebe, and the kite, and the vulture of after his kind, and every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk of after his kind, the little owl, the great owl, the swan, and the pelican, and the eagle, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat, and every creature, creeping thing that flieth is unclean unto you. They shall not be eaten. But of all the clean fowls ye may eat. So what can you eat then? Of all clean birds ye shall eat, but we just listed like every bird that you can't eat.
That's not a bird of prey.
Bird of prey, right? Yeah, you can notice the group here, 20 species of birds were forbidden. These were birds of prey, which would thus violate the fundamental prohibition against eating flesh with blood. So basically, birds of prey were not to be eaten. So what kind of birds could you eat then?
Chicken.
Chicken, turkey, doves, some sort of thing. Pigeons. All right, what kind of insects are you allowed to eat? And every creeping thing that flieth is unclean unto you; they shall not be eaten. Verse in Leviticus chapter 11, starting in verse 21. Leviticus 11, verse 21. Yet these ye may eat of every flying, creeping thing that goeth upon all four, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat: the locust after his kind, the bald locust after his kind, the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. Aren't you glad you can know? You can eat those.
That's why people get them chocolate covered, right?
Chocolate covered. We should have brought some in today so you can have a sampling of clean and unclean animals.
No, thank you.
So only 4 species. Those 4 species of locusts were edible. 4 species of locusts are edible. Deuteronomy 14:21. Ye shall eat of anything that dieth of itself. Thou shalt not give it unto the stranger. Thou shalt give it unto the stranger that is in thy gate, that he may eat it, or thou mayest sell it unto an alien. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seize the kid in his mother's milk. Here we have so you have an animal that dies on its own. What are you allowed to do with it?
Sell it or give it to a stranger.
Yeah. Sell it to a foreigner, sell it to a non-Israelite, or give it to a non-Israelite. But you, as a holy people, as Israelites, you're not allowed to eat it. So your cow falls dead in the pasture, you're not allowed to eat it.
Mary.
Sell it. And the reason why you're not allowed to eat an animal that falls on its own is that it was not properly bled, therefore it is unkosher, unproperly bled. We also find here another reminder that goats were not to be cooked in his mother's milk. Goats were not to be cooked in his mother's milk. This may have had to do with a Canaanite fertility ritual, or God wanted to prohibit cooking an animal in a substance that gives life. So in other words, you have death and life, milk is life, and you have that animal that does not work together. This law became the reason why Jews cannot have a kosher cheeseburger, because there's no such thing as a kosher cheeseburger. Can't have cheese and burger together. Observant Jews today will not eat milk and meat at the same meal, or even at the same places with the same utensils cooked in the same pot, because the rabbis insist that the meat in the hamburger may have come from the calf or of the cow that gave the milk for the cheese, and the cheese and the meat would boil together in one stomach and be a violation of this command. So I guess you won't see an Orthodox Jew eating a cheeseburger. So what about today? Eat anything. Eat anything. Eat anything. Today we are allowed to eat anything. Acts chapter 10 verse 9. On the morrow as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray after the 6th hour, and he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. And saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descended unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, let down the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God hath cleansed, that call not common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. So you are free to eat what you so desire. You're free to eat what you so desire. But here we have a command for the Israelites to be clean and holy people, and they were not to eat of certain animals. And we know God's laws are always for their protection. It wasn't, don't enjoy that wonderful dessert because it's going to cause you harm or whatever, It was for their protection, for them not to get some sort of disease and be healthy. And we know even today that we have to cook certain animals very thoroughly, or else we'll get sick. Do you have any questions so far on clean and unclean animals?
Are Jews allowed to eat anything today? Are they still under the...
Well,
if they're saved, they're not under the law.
Right.
But if they don't believe that Jesus came, then they're going to abide by these laws.
Right, the Orthodox, right. So they're putting themselves under
The
a law that has already been abolished and taken care of by Jesus dying on the cross. That's right.
What was the answer to number one? Camel?
The camel disqualified. Yeah.
I'm sorry, how about the very first one, E5? E5?
B5?
The very first one. The very first one is Pegasus camel. Holiness.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Holiness, the holiness of the people. Right. Oh, we're ready?
And what about the
Mourning, pagan mourning rituals. And be it clean and unclean food.
Oh, we're on it. Can we say C again?
C?
Which seed are we talking about?
The one after number one, letter B, number one,
Oh, okay.
letter C.
Oh, go.
Go.
Go. Thank you.
Which one's the fallow deer? Which is what?
Fallow deer. What is a fallow deer?
Fallow deer.
You're going to have to watch National Geographic. Well, are we ready to move on? Deuteronomy 14:22. We're going to get into the law of the tithe. The law of the tithe, always an exciting topic. Deuteronomy 14:22. Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed, that he that bringeth forth year by year, and thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the place his name, the tithe of thy corn, and the tithe thy wine, and thine oil, and thy firstlings of thy herds, and thy flock, that thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always. So here you have the festivals. The festivals are around the harvest season. The harvest season is when you bring your tithe of your harvest, your first of the harvest, to the temple or the tabernacle, and you bring it in. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago where if you had such a large crop, you could then convert it into money and take that. That would be a lot easier to carry to the temple, carry to Jerusalem a long distance. But here we have, personally, you need to be tithing. And so if you're bringing in your corn, your wine, your oil, and your herds, these are farmers, right? This is their living, and so they're tithing off the increase of the profits of their labors, right? So they're bringing it to the Lord, bringing it to the temple. Verse 24. And if the way, maybe we didn't talk about that. Maybe I just studied it. Verse 24. And if they be too long for thee, so thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far for thee, which the Lord thy God shall choose, to set his name there, when the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, then thou shalt return it into money, and bind up the money in thine hand, and shalt go into the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, for oxen, or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desireth, and thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt rejoice, thou and thine household. And the Levite that is within the gate, thou shalt not forsake him, for he hath no part nor increase with thee. At the end of 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and it shall lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he hath no part nor increase with thee, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thy hand which thou doest. We find also in Leviticus 27:30, and all the tithe of the hand, whether the seed of the land or the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's, and is holy unto the Lord. And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithe, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or the flesh or the flock, even of whatsoever passes under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. And he shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy, it shall not be redeemed. So what was required of the increase of the crops every year? 10%. 10% is required of the increase of all the crops of that year. And so we presume also that they would have kept back the seed that would be needed to plant the next season. And so then what's that, the 10th after that would be taken to the temple. Number 2, the tithe was taken to temple or tabernacle, whatever the case may be. The one place where the Lord chose is what it is. The tithe could be converted to money. The tithe could be converted to money to make it easier to carry. The tithe could be converted to money to make it easier to carry. You know, sometimes you're going to go away and you're going to have to celebrate something, a wedding or birthday out of town. Well, you have a choice. You can either make all the food you're required to bring here, or you take some money and buy it in the grocery store there. And, you do what's best that works for your situation at that time, right? So here's the same thing. Moses made it very practical. This is required, but I can see where it could be very heavy to carry, and you can convert it over. And then when you get there, there'll be people there to sell you sheep and flock, different things, and you can buy whatever you need for the sacrifice that you're giving right there at the time. We do know at the time of Christ that Bethlehem was the location where the Pharisees had acquired a lot of land, and they were the place where the firstborn animals were born. And so that's another reason why Jesus was born in Bethlehem, because he was sacrificed. And so all the ceremony animals would have been taken to Bethlehem to be born. And there the shepherds, who were temple shepherds, would have raised the flock for the sacrifice and would make sure that they, prevent them from having blemishes and make sure they weren't worked and so forth. And then they would then be sold at the temple. And Bethlehem is only 5 miles south of Jerusalem. So they would have been taken up for the festivals. And then people who have converted their money in their hometown would come in and buy what they needed there. Number 4, the money would then be converted into a feast to celebrate what God has done. Money would be converted into a feast to celebrate what God has done. So if you had come for Passover, for instance, is a joyous festival, you would have come, brought your lamb. Part of the lamb would go to the priest, but majority of the lamb would come home for you to enjoy with your family and friends. And so this is for the feast, converted for the feast. Well, verse 26 includes strong drink, which would have been alcoholic. This verse does not say to drink it. The strong wine would be used for cooking, medical needs, or if it were drunk, it would be highly diluted. Also, since the verse is unclear, do not use this verse to contradict all other passages relating to refraining from alcohol. I was quite pleased to find out recently that Donald Trump doesn't drink. He refuses, he stays away from drinking alcohol. His parents laid it strong on him: no alcohol, no cigarettes, no drugs, and he's kept away from that. Now, he does own wineries and owns all these other things, but he himself does not partake, and he ensues on his children also. So it's great to have, and just so you know, George W. Bush didn't drink at all either. Yeah.
His brother.
Yes. Wayne.
I don't think he did coffee.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He said he did that because he saw the suffering that his brother went through, and he vowed that he would never touch alcohol because he saw what it did to a person. His brother told him, no, don't ever do it. But I also understand his family, his parents were instilling on the whole family that drink from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump. He doesn't drink.
Doesn't drink.
He participate in any of this.
All right, number 5. Every 3rd year, what would happen?
Well, we give the tithe to the Levites.
We'd give the tithe to the Levites, the orphans, and widows. So every 3rd year, where would it go? Would you go to Jerusalem with it? You would do it in your gates. So the Levites, the orphans in your own town, would get your tithe for that year. Every 3rd year, your tithe would go to the orphans and the Levites of your town. So every third year, one would give his tithe to the Levites, orphans, foreigners, and widows.
So this is in your own town. They didn't have to take it to the temple.
Right, because it says in your gates. In your gates. So assume everyone would be off on a different 3-year cycle. Otherwise, every 3 years there would be no feast in Jerusalem. Or, without that, or every 3rd year, or the other 2 years, your orphans and your Levites wouldn't need anything. So hopefully there's some sort of rotation. 2 Corinthians 9:7, every man according as he purposes in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. As is written, he that disperseth abroad, he hath given to the poor, his righteousness remaineth forever. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 1, now concerning the collection of the saints, as I have given order to the church of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of every week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. So, as you know, tithing is important today in our churches. It's what supports your local church. Make sure everything happens, keeps the lights on, make sure the pastor can serve without having other labor responsibilities. It gives you the resources you need here in church. Also allows you to have, food, to be able to partake in, and things like that. Available to have, the secretary help handle things in church. But tithing is important, and we need to be cheerful with that. It's an honor to give to the Lord, to give the first to the Lord. So that completes Deuteronomy chapter 14. Deuteronomy chapter 14. Interestingly, Deuteronomy chapter 15 has to do with the year of release the year of release or sabbatical year. Again, that's right there. We are 4 minutes away from 8 o'clock, so we probably should not get into it. But chapter 15 goes right along with the latter part of 14, where tithing is giving something up, right? Giving something up. So we're going to talk about the sabbatical year, where every 7 years, debts were canceled. You were out from under debt. You're also, if you were a indentured servant, you were free from being an indentured servant. And so those are things that were given up, right? That you as a person would have to give away. Also goes right into the law of the firstborn. The law of the firstborn. So you have a firstborn sheep. What are you going to do with it? You're not keeping it for yourself. You're setting it apart from the Lord. So all these different things here that we're talking about all go right, even though it doesn't look like they go together, these are all things that you as an individual person are giving up because God asked for it. Okay? And so we're going to cover that next week. And then after that, I guess I get a rest. That's a nice sabbatical year, sabbatical period of time, right? Take a sabbatical. We'll cover with talking about the sabbatical year. Any questions or comments? Let's close in prayer. Dear Father, Lord, we thank you for today, Lord. We thank you for your blessings. We thank you for just the wonders of your word, Lord, and Lord, the fascination, the rib, and Lord, how you know our bodies better than we do, Lord. Lord, may you be with Pastor Allen in the hour to come. May you fill him with the Holy Spirit. Lord, be with your people. Lord, may you bless in mighty, mighty ways. In Jesus' name.
Amen.